っさと本題入ろう。
そうだね。そっか。じゃあ前原くんはそのお友達のことが大好きなんだね。
あ、いや、それは
さて話も終わったことだし、早いとこ帰ろっか。
でもせっかくこうして仲直りしたんだし。
I made friends with the second prettiest girl in my class, episode number 2, guys. And because I had a lot of time to think because this episode was very boring, there's a lot of things that I kind of want to chat about in the ethos of the world, you know, the world building that they're doing in this show. I kind of have a lot of questions about it, and I just wanted to point a few things out. But before I do, I made a big statement, right? This episode is super boring. I think it's going to be one of the biggest hurdles that this show has to climb. It seems like it will be okay to read at like a quick pace, but in having to watch almost 23 minutes of just really nothing, right? Like the episode really is just, they came and you had Maihara and Amami. They were sneaking a view of 𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐭 getting confessed to, and that led into Amami giving Maihara her phone number, like just be nice, I guess. Then that leads for on a Friday, 𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐭 and Maihara having a date, right? And prior to that, 𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐭 was asked by the guy who was confessing to, like, oh, do you like anybody? You know, do you have interest in somebody? Have a boyfriend? Can we just be friends? And she was like, no. I'm not interested in nobody. That's not my kind of thing. I'm not into that right now. And no, we don't want to be friends. So that happened. Then on Friday, her and Maihara go out on a date, basically, right? They go to hang out, but it's basically a date. They go and they eat and they hit the arcade and they hit the batting cages and they do all these things together, okay? Prior to that, I think they were at home and they were playing games with each other and hanging out at his house, eating and playing games and stuff. Then that led into them getting, on Friday, not exposed, but kind of caught by Amami because she was there with a group of friends, and Maihara dodged and bobbed and weaved, and he had a big bombastic moment about hanging out in groups. Very weird stuff, but he did it anyways. He was trying to get 𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐭 not caught up in the whole moment. He called her on the phone, whatever. And he had that moment and you thought that, you know, she offended him at some, you know, somehow, some way. But that could have been further from the case, essentially. That's not exactly what happened. That led to Amami reaching out to 𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐭 a little bit, or that led to you reaching out to Maihara a little bit later, and you know, she let out in the middle of the class that they have each other's phone numbers. Then that led to them hanging out at Maihara's place, and they explained it a little bit better. And then there was a moment where Maihara and 𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐭 had like a moment where they got a little bit flustered, and then they, you know, Amami and Maihara agreed to be friends. So that's kind of like the things that happened this episode. Between that though, you know, the things that I want to point out. First off, they were hanging out at Maihara's house, right? Pretty early on in the episode. They were hanging out and they were having a whole entire moment. And during them hanging out, one thing I want to call out is they both like go to play games with each other, right? They met because they're gonna, you know, they have an interest in really bad B tier, C tier, F tier movies, right? But now they're playing games with each other at home, and they're like, oh, they both grabbed the controller. What are they playing? You know, as somebody who's pretty, and this is me just being super duper nitpicky, as somebody who's very, very connected in gaming, I run a whole gaming channel. There's Mario over there, right? Like I literally have, what is that? Mario Wonder over there. There's very few games, unless you're like into fighting games, you know, unless you're playing like Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom, or like some of these fighting games, Mortal Kombat. There's not that many games outside of like, you know, some Nintendo games that you can really play two players. Unfortunately, that split screen type of experience just doesn't really exist anymore. So when I see people playing games with each other, you know, unless they're playing a really old game, like, you know, back in the day, Like I was watching an anime called High Score Girl, which I recommend watching. It's one of my favorites of all time. I love that show so much. Unless you're playing like old school games like, Street Fighter or, Ghosts and Goblins and stuff, like where you have like these 2-player split screen experiences. They just don't exist anymore. So that's my first nitpick. And the reason I got to even nitpick about it is because the episode is really boring. So that's kind of like the first thing, right? Is like, what are they playing exactly? Then they go on a date, but then they don't call it a date. Okay, that's whatever. You know what I mean? They're just hanging out and becoming really good friends, okay? Then you have the moment where my Hara gets caught up by Amami, right? And he has this big moment of being friends and being in groups and stuff. He has this big old monologue. It's really weird behavior. And I was like, ugh, I don't know how I feel about that exactly. Then he falls asleep on the train, on the track, on whatever, like, Asanagi's like, oh, you seem a little tired. Go ahead and take a nap. Who falls asleep? Who just falls asleep on it? Like, that could never be me. I don't know. Like, it's just like, it's so weird. And then he just falls asleep. Okay, that's weird to me. In the beginning of the date too, she also rags on him for wearing all black. He's basically wearing jeans, a black shirt, and a weird side backpack. I don't know. People are into those fanny packs and stuff. They look really weird. Like he's just wearing a normal fit, and she's wearing a baseball hat and a half hoodie and some pants, and she's ragging on his style, but she looks like she's about to hit like an Otaku-𝐿𝐻𝐿 or something. So it's like, okay, that didn't make sense to me at all. Like why she's trying to give him style points when she looks not great. Then we have the whole entire Amami, is it Amami? Yeah, Amami stuff at the end where it just kind of blissfully comes to them being friends. I'm like, okay, that just seems like, why does the most popular girl have such a strong interest in this boy as well too? And the show doesn't really answer that. Maybe it will answer that later. But again, I had all this time to think because the episode was really boring. And again, I think, like I said in the beginning, that's going to be a hill that the show has to climb, at least for me, is that it either needs to be really funny or the drama that it's presenting needs to be really juicy. You know what I mean? Like it's gotta be real juicy stuff. And if it's not, then it's gonna lean towards boring, which I think this episode did. And yeah, I'm gonna get sleepy like my Hara did on the train, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like nothing's happening really. So that's going to be the uphill battle that the show has for me personally. So with all that being said, I think this episode was a 6 out of 10. I think it was just okay. Like it was just passable enough. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I don't know how you guys felt about this episode. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll be back next week. We'll be here for episode 3 and we'll see on how that shakes out. Hopefully it gets a little bit better, but this episode was just not it for me. So yeah. All right, my friends. See you next week. Peace out.